All right, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Let me make sure that I am broadcasting to YouTube and I am keeping my fingers crossed for a nice signal. I am not in my home, so I don't have a hard connection tonight. And StreamYard recommends that you use a hard Ethernet connection. And when you're using wireless, you're at the mercy of the wireless network. Okay, let me see. All right, I'm seeing the red live logo. Up there's an ad. All right, so yes, we are live. I'm going to make an announcement over on my original Big Discussions 76 channel. There are four, just to see if anyone wants to come over. I made several announcements on Facebook. My Facebook friends, those folks, they don't always participate over here on YouTube. So I know that Alex will at least be here, and we're going to do a bit of a Q&A and back and forth on this timeless discussion and to some degree this impossible discussion. And then if other folks want to come and join us, I will throw the link in the chat, and other folks can come up and uh, other folks can come up and let us know what they think about who the GOAT is, the greatest of all time in the NBA. So let me see. To my Michigan football fans, I have not forgotten about our beloved maize and blue. There is a lot of news to catch up on. So I think I'm going to do a Michigan football stream next week to help us catch up on everything that's going on in the aftermath of our painful loss to TCU. Okay, let me share this really quickly. Okay, I have a few more likes. Thank you to whoever liked this stream. Okay. Okay, the first one in looks like CR Frank. Okay, my guest is here. CR Frank, thank you for being here. My guest is here. Alex, let me make sure our super fan knows that we're doing this. We can't have this discussion without our super fan in the chat. Art Newstall, what's going on? It would be like having Christmas without Santa Claus. Okay, guys, a quick aside. I am doing some dog sitting. So if you hear some ruckus in the background, that's what it is. But when Alex comes up and if other guests come up, you will see me mute my mic. So if you hear some chaos in the background like you're hearing right now, that's what that is. Okay, so I thought by coming in this room I'd be safe. Okay, so tonight, and again to my Michigan football fans, we're gonna pick up Coach Harbaugh and the Maize and Blue again really soon. I'm gonna try to do a stream next week to catch us up on all the news. But tonight, we're gonna talk some basketball, and we're gonna talk about who the GOAT is. I don't know that anyone will be able to come to a consensus on this, but it's a fun discussion, and this is NBA All-Star Weekend, and LeBron just passed Kareem as the NBA's all-time leading scorer. So me and Alex have been talking about doing this for a while. So here we are. So Alex is backstage. So you know my style. I like to set things up. First of all, shout out to Amor at Hibbett Sports. That's where I got my Jumpman T-shirt from earlier today. I figured I should have something representative of this discussion. So I have my first Jordan brand T-shirt ever. I've never owned a pair of Jordans. Can you believe that? I've never owned a pair. So maybe before my time is up on this earth, I will get myself a pair. So shout out to Amor and Hibbett Sports. Uh, in about a week and a half, guess where I'm going? I am actually going to go for the first time to the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame in Springfield, Massachusetts. My father is celebrating his birthday out there, and I've never been to Springfield, Massachusetts. And it dawned on me when I was thinking about going, the Basketball Hall of Fame is out there. So I'm going to purchase my ticket, and I'm going to walk through. I don't think I'll be able to sit in on any of the Hall of Fame speeches because they don't have any organized for that weekend. But I'm going to the Basketball Hall of Fame. I just thought that was cool that we're doing this stream, and I'm going to do that. So the GOAT. Who is the GOAT? Is it people argue about this? People argue about this on Facebook. People argue about this on Twitter. People argue about this in their personal circles. And the arguments, shout out to the snowman. Shout out to Snowman. They were talking about this morning and how fiercely loyal the LeBron James fans are. And this discussion, it brings out the best in people, it brings out the worst in people, and it seems like we're all married to a specific era. I was born in the 70s, I grew up in the 80s, and as I'll describe, I witnessed the ascension of Michael Jordan. So that's who I am allied to, and I guess that's my bias. But who is the GOAT? The original thumbnail just had Michael and LeBron, but someone on Facebook uh, called it to my attention yesterday that there are others who are in this discussion. There's Mike. There's LeBron. LeBron just passed Kareem. Some would argue that Kobe should be in there. Bill Russell has 9 rings. Some would argue that Magic is the one out of all these guys who made his teammates better, that Magic was the ultimate winner. And then, of course, Wilt was the one who scored 100 points in a game. So who is the GOAT? Who is the greatest of all time? Most of you know, and if you don't know, I came to YouTube as a writer, and this is my book, The Engineers, a Western New York Basketball Story. And it's a narrative story about my own basketball journey and those of my teammates and other kids in Western New York. But the story, the way I wrote it, it literally, this is no lie, it literally starts off with the seminal moment for me, which was, I should have had this queued up. The seminal moment for me was seeing this. Me and Alex talked about this the last time he was here. It was seeing Mike hit the shot. This was, I just started watching the NBA in the 6th or the 7th grade. I bought an NBA yearbook from Topps Friendly Markets, and I followed the Bulls all season. They weren't the best team in the East that year, and I think they were the number seventh. They were the seventh seed, the seventh or the seventh or the sixth seed, and they drew Cleveland, and it was a hard fought 5 game series. And well, you know the rest. You know how it goes. Michael, there was an exchange of shots between Scottie Pippen and Craig Elo and Michael Jordan. Lenny Wilkins decided to put Craig Elo on Michael Jordan that last play, and Michael Jordan gave me one of the most magical moments of my lifetime up to that point, and arguably one of the most magical moments in my life today. I still watch that shot on YouTube, and it still gives me goosebumps. So at that point, I watched the ascension of Mike. I watched, Wheaties. I started eating Wheaties. I started, that's when the whole "be like Mike" thing started, and that's for me. That was my most fun time watching the NBA. But that was my era, and I was thinking last night. I'm curious to hear what Alex has to say. A lot of it back then, it was there was theater to it. It was the Bulls versus the Pistons. It was literally a battle of good and evil. And you're watching these series as a seventh and eighth grader, and you're hoping the Bulls win, and the Pistons are beating Mike and his teammates up, and there was a lot of they were arch rivals, and there was theater. And I was thinking one of the things that LeBron and I think I've been critical of LeBron myself up to this point, but I think one of the things that's missing from his legacy is an arch nemesis. Okay, the Lakers had the Celtics, and there were other teams in there like the Houston Rockets and the 76ers, but the Lakers had the Celtics, and then the Bulls had the Pistons, and then the Bulls and the Knicks had each other. So they were arch rivals, and that was fun to watch, and it was agonizing to watch. But that's what I was thinking last night as I was laying down in bed and thinking about the streams. That I think that's one of the things that's missing from today's NBA. And it's funny, a lot of guys say they don't watch the NBA today, or else they don't watch it until playoff time. But I think that's one of the things that's missing today is the rivalries, the fact that they were enemies back then, at least when the games were being played. And some could and some would argue that they're friends today. They're too friendly. They're too cordial. Okay, I threw this slide together really quickly. Maybe I left something off. I'm sure Alex will give his opinion, but I'm going to show this slide, and then I'm going to bring Alex up. We're going to do a Q&A, and then if folks from the chat want to come in, I'll drop the link. What goes into the GOAT discussion? What things should we think about when thinking about who the greatest of all time is? Well, I just threw some things on the slide here. One of the things that we compare are the championships. We compare what I just described, uh, that player's competition in that specific era. I don't know if I don't know if our resident super fan Abdul Gaines is here, but one of the things Abdul Gaines, oh, he's not here yet. One of the things he jokingly says all the time is that Michael Jordan beat a bunch of tomato cans. So Michael didn't beat Magic in his prime. Michael didn't beat Larry Bird in his prime. Michael didn't beat the Pistons in their prime. The Pistons were old; they were falling apart at that point. And then he knocked off a rebuilding Laker team. He knocked off the Trailblazers, and then the Suns. Those are two pretty good teams. But then he knocked off Utah twice and the Sonics once. So one argument is that Michael beat a bunch of tomato cans. He didn't beat anybody. The other argument is that LeBron faced way better competition. Magic faced better competition. Magic and Kareem faced better competition. Uh, the effect on teammates. Okay, Michael didn't start winning until he learned how to share the ball and trust his teammates. That was one of Magic's greatest skills, was that Magic made his teammates better. Watching Magic in the open court pass the ball was a thing of beauty. It still is. So what is the effect of this particular player on his teammates? The era played in. This is one of the things that makes it hardest to have this discussion is the era. We know that in today's era, uh, certain things, the rules have changed. If you watch Isaiah Thomas's sit down interview with Magic when they made up, and even I think on All the Smoke, one of the things Isaiah is very adamant about is that David Stern changed the rules for Michael Jordan because David Stern saw Michael Jordan as their golden calf and their ambassador that was going to take the NBA around the world. So all the players, arguably after Michael, Allen Iverson, Kobe, LeBron, KD, Steph, they are the beneficiaries of a less physical game. So how do the eras compare? Their lasting impact on the game, that kind of speaks for itself. I just discussed that. Let's see. Overall production, championships, statistics, MVP trophies, defensive player of the year trophies, those things. How do their credentials line up? Uh, Skill set. What was that particular player's skill set? Were they a distributor? Did they average 30 points a game? Did they make their teammates better? Was their main go-to move the hook shot? Kareem's main go-to move was the hook shot. He didn't really, he would block some shots and start the break, but his main value was going to the low block, taking a couple dribbles, turning, and shooting his hook shot. And then finally, uh, I'll say transcendence. What what effect did the player have on the game itself, and then how big did they get outside of the game? I have a lot of comments here. No, Abdul's not here yet. So with that, everyone, I'm going to bring up Alex. We're going to do a little Q&A, and then if other folks want to come up, I see Eric Hall there. Chris, thank you for stopping through. Always good to see you. Raheem Gaines, thank you for stopping through. I'm sure you have a lot to say on this as well. Well, let's see what Alex has to say about this, and I'm going to zip it. What's going on, Alex?
What say you? How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. So I know we kind of discussed this offline. We've been discussing
Hmm.
for a while, and I'm glad you kind of broached the probably the first question we should ask, or like, what are the credentials? What are we exactly are we looking at? I think it's interesting. So that Cavs team, with Elo and Mark Price and Brad Daugherty.
Hmm.
I was actually at that game when Jordan hit that shot.
Wow. Okay.
I was there. A lot of people, obviously, if you watched, I'm from Northeast Ohio, huge Cavalier fan. Grew up a Cavs and Browns fan my whole life. Um, so yeah, I was at that game, and I actually, here's the thing: I missed the shot because I went to the concession stand because I thought we won, and I was trying to get some popcorn before we left.
Wow.
And I missed it. I missed the shot, but I was at that game. I remember walking back and kind of looking up and looking at the score and was like, "What just happened?" And yeah, so I went home, and then it was all over Channel 4 News back at that time. But yeah, I think it's interesting. I think that's probably the first conversation we really need to have. I think everybody's criteria is different.
Hmm.
I also believe that if you're, from my standpoint, I'm kind of in the I grew up watching the Bulls with Michael Jordan, obviously with those Cavs teams, to today's game, and I don't know. People always make the argument that the NBA was more physical
Hmm.
then. I don't necessarily know if I agree with that for this particular reason. Today's athletes are bigger, stronger, and faster.
Mm-hmm.
And in the 80s and 90s, you had hand checking, but majority of the physicality that happens in today's game is off ball. It's not necessarily on ball like it was during that period of time.
Okay.
So you could be able to arm bar and kind of like arm bar and even like get your hand in there and kind of direct a player to where you want to go. So you can't necessarily do that. But anybody that really watches basketball, coach basketball, I'm a basketball coach, who really watches the game, it's physical. Like I don't think you can really compare the physicality. I would kind of say both those things kind of cancel each other out. I mean, obviously you can't hard foul the way that you did then, but just from a play to play standpoint, um, you know, I think the game's just more physical off ball than it was then, and I think the NBA in the 80s and 90s was more physical on ball defense. So like you would see hard fouls, which is like on the ball, but if you watch the screen, the cutting, like there's a lot of grabbing, pushing, shoving, like and like I said, the if we're talking physicality, the players, the athletes are far greater today than they were 30, 40 years ago, which is what we're kind of talking about. So I think if you kind of stack those things up against each other, for me, they just kind of cancel each other out. So I know that's always been an argument, but for me, those things can't always they just cancel each other out.
Okay. So, Alex, what is your reaction when you hear Isaiah Thomas tell Magic David Stern changed the rules for Michael Jordan? I mean, do you think that's true, or do you think Isaiah's just besmirching Michael?
I think it's a little bit of both. I remember watching that. I watched the up the smoke interview. It was a great. If you haven't seen it with Isaiah Thomas, it's a great interview. Please go watch it. Um, was it all the smoke or was it the pivot? I think it was the pivot. It was the pivot.
Okay.
It was the pivot podcast. Please go watch that Isaiah Thomas and pivot. It's a great, really good interview. I think obviously there's always going to be that smoke there, right? From Isaiah. That's just that's just who he is. He's ultimate competitor. And I think both things can be true. I think that David Stern made a lot of changes while he was commissioner of the NBA to kind of take it into the future. And I understand the decisions. I think Michael Jordan was just the right person to probably take advantage of those other rule changes. You can't hate him for that. I mean, you adjust to what the rules are and you adjust your game, and that's what great players should do. And he's definitely a great player, hands down, no question. Um, Very similar to today's game, speed and space. Steph Curry, I don't believe could have played in the 80s or 90s. I think he, with hand checking and all those things, like he wouldn't have been able to play. But there are also players that played back then that were great that I don't think they could play. They couldn't run in this era right now because the game is a lot faster. There's a lot more defensively, more room to cover, and I think they'd be a liability on the court. Kind of very similar to like you can hide Steph kind of in the corner um,
Hmm.
in a lot of possessions, but if you're moving, if he gets exposed a lot. He's not the worst defender, but he gets exposed a lot for being I say average to below average defender. So I think you can make the cross argument both ways for people that take advantage of rule changes. So I definitely think he's right, but I also understand it's Isaiah Thomas, so there's a little bit of spin on that.
Okay. Well, even going back, I see BJ's Idmore is here. On a basketball stream I did here about 2 years ago, they said someone pointed out, it was either BGS or Black Uru pointed out that uh, Oscar Robertson's the way he played defense got legislated out because he hand checked,
Yeah, he
so
did.
that hurt his game.
Hmm.
So okay, Eric Hall, thank you for the $10 super chat. Eric says this is actually the smallest era. Players are smaller at every position except the point guard position. 1988 was the tallest year. Also, players today get injured and miss more games than before. I wonder if he's talking about the load management.
Possibly, but keep in mind, but I don't think players are the smallest they've ever been. I mean, back in the '80s, you had 5'5" point guards. Um, I mean, shooting like the average shooting guard in today's NBA. When I was in the '90s, it was like 6'4", 6'5". Now they're like 6'7", 6'8". Like the average shooting guard. And I mean, today it's positionless basketball. So like you're basically playing guards and forwards, not really true center. So maybe that's his argument. Um, but there are a lot more athletes. I'd say athletes. Um, Maybe not necessarily size, but there are a lot more athletes playing the game of basketball today than there were, um, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
Okay. Okay. So I'm trying to think how we set off down this path here. So we're talking about uh, championships, eras. What else do you think about what I said, or this?
I
Hold
think
on.
I think that
Right.
I think the path really matters. Like how you how you got to win a championship, who you won it with, because nobody ever discusses this, but in my opinion, Jerry Krause and RC Buford, Pat Riley, Jerry West, those are probably the best GMs of my lifetime. And um, who was coached, who coached the teams, the players, like all those things. I think all those things definitely come into account if you're having that discussion. And I think the main thing is the discussion. When you say the greatest, are we talking about just flat out the best basketball player of all time, or the greatest regarding accolades? I think that's probably probably where we should probably start at. I think that's probably the first part of the discussion we should have is. I think that's defining. You laid out some really good things, but I also believe that are we having a discussion around the best player, like just the best all around player, or the greatest player, the one who won the most championships, etc. So, and how they got there, like those things, the story of how you get somewhere that matters too. Because for somebody like say, and trust me, I love that. Listen, one of my favorite players of all time, Kobe. It was kind of laid out for him a little bit. I mean, he had a stacked team. He had Shaq. Nobody really thought they were going to lose. The only people who thought they were going to lose were the Portland Trailblazers and at one point in time the Sacramento Kings. But was it hard? Yeah, it was hard. But I don't think anybody never thought that they would win a championship with that team, right? So I think in my opinion, Kobe is not he's not a part of the discussion. Just because the groundwork was laid out for him, and especially who he had coaching and the team that was put together. And I think when you start to look at it from that lens, you kind of have to take away, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, organizations win championships. There's a reason why certain organizations win championships. Um, so for a player to take advantage in this particular argument, I feel like might need to be disqualified. So, like for instance, if you have somebody like, let's say, let's replace. I'll give you an example. Let's replace Allen Iverson, the year that he went to the finals. Okay, let's replace him with Prime Jordan. Does Prime Jordan make it to the finals with that squad?
That squad probably not, because that squad was all role players.
Okay, but my point is that that's an organizational move, right? So I can make the argument that doesn't mean that Allen Iverson is better than Michael Jordan, because he's not. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that organizations take a huge part in championships. That's the point I'm making. Like there's nobody on the planet besides Allen Iverson that thinks that Allen Iverson is better than Michael Jordan. Like, and I don't even think he thinks that. But I think both of us, can look at it realistically and say, Prime Jordan. I mean, we had Prime Jordan with a team like that, and he didn't get out the first round. So, I mean, there's that, and I understand. Yeah, you can say, well, it's a different time period, but like, even if you move Michael Jordan to that time period, he probably still doesn't do it. Like that's a feat that like not a lot of people can do, and it takes a certain kind of person to do that. Doesn't it doesn't make Allen Iverson any better doesn't make Michael Jordan any worse.
Okay. Raheem Gaines has an interesting comment here. He says Kobe never won a playoff series without Shaq or Powell. So I think that says a lot. And Alex, it sounds like you're making the Jerry Krause argument.
Listen,
Michael Jordan and Jerry Krause, they
whatever,
quarreled over that.
whatever. He got chips because of Jerry Krause, so I could care less about what he thinks. Jerry Krause doesn't draft Scottie Pippen, Tony. He doesn't go get robbed. He doesn't move the pieces on the board. Jordan doesn't win he doesn't win anything. So like that's a no argument. Like he can be upset and point and laugh and all that nonsense, but like you need to put some respect on that guy's name. Even if you don't like him, like you have to respect him. Like he could build a team. He really could. He knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah. And in The Last Dance, yeah, Michael was pretty disrespectful towards Jerry Krause. Okay, a few comments here. Eric says, yes, Prime Jordan does win with Allen's NBA Finals roster.
I mean, Prime Jordan couldn't get past the very old Celtics team. So, I mean, I don't believe it. But that's the best thing about this argument. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion.
Okay, Sinister Baller says, "Aw-ish." Nanga Iboko says, "I agree about Kobe." Okay, so Kobe. Okay. BGS says that's any player. The New Jersey Nets 2001, Jason Kidd, Kenyon Martin, Todd McAuliffe, those guys. I'll read a few more, then we'll get back to it. Sinister Baller says, I'm not sure what this is referring to, smoking crack. Eric says, Allen Iverson did not go against the 86 Celtics to get to the finals. So that's an era argument there. Sinister Baller says, replace AI with MJ and that squad gets to the finals.
Okay.
Well, that squad, are we talking about the same squad here? Because are we talking about that team getting to the finals or that team beating the Lakers?
No, they wouldn't beat the Lakers. But I think just getting to I don't believe that they would get to the finals. But listen, okay. That's just what I believe, and I could be wrong. I mean, we're clearly speaking hypotheticals here. I think this is the thing. When it comes to Michael Jordan, I think two things. Well, I know two things. Not that I think. I know two things. He's never won without the triangle. They didn't play the triangle in Philly. And he's never won without Phil Jackson.
Okay. Alex, our resident super fan is here, so I have to properly
Nick Saban?
Great. No. We're gonna go with some MJ.
Oh, okay.
Isaiah Thomas, Magic Johnson, George Gervin. Now they say it was a so-called freeze out in my rookie season. I wouldn't have never guessed, but you guys gave me the motivation to say, you know what? Evidently I haven't proved enough to these guys. I got to prove to them that I deserve what I've gotten on this level.
So Abdul, before me and Alex continue, there are some interesting comments here. Your brother says Kobe never won a playoff series without Shaq or Powell. And then someone else said, Abdul, that, well, it's in here somewhere that Kobe's not even in the GOAT discussion, Abdul. So I just thought that since you're here, we know that you are Team Kobe, but
as am I.
As is Alex.
As am I.
But there's a sentiment out there that Kobe is not in the GOAT discussion. Interesting.
No, he's not.
Okay. Abdul says, and we're not going to let Abdul take over the chat, but he says, Powell never won a playoff series without Kobe. The Kobe slander needs to stop.
It's not slander. It's not slander to say that he's not the best ever. It's not slander. It's just an opinion.
Mm-hmm. All right. So Alex, okay. So we talked about management. We talked about um, accolades, and we talked about, are we just talking about championships? Are we talking about the best player? Because someone like Abdul, you know how sacred someone like Abdul holds um, the number of championships, the number of banners.
Mhm.
For some people, that is arguably the most important metric for the GOAT.
I think it's part of the conversation. I don't think it's just the conversation. Because if anybody who's played a sport on any level, right? Let's say high school and above. You played in high school, you played in college. Um, there's so many things that go into preparation just for one game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just for one game, let alone a season. Um, so I don't think you can solely put all that responsibility on one, like on one player. Where, like, it goes bad or it goes good. Like, teams win, organizations win championships, not players. That's just what it is. So I
Okay.
like think it's a part of the conversation. I don't think it's the end of the conversation. Because if it was, I mean, we could say Kareem's the best, or Bill Russell's the best, and we're done. If that's the way you kind of want to that's the way you want to look at it. You say Kareem or Bill Russell, and then we're done.
Okay.
I I don't necessarily believe that though, but that's my take on it.
Okay. So, everyone, thank you for being here. If you haven't, please hit that like button. If you're new, please subscribe to the channel. This is, in large part, a Michigan football channel. I haven't been able to get basketball pop. I haven't been able to get basketball to pop yet, but I think if we have more discussions like this, I can. So if you're new and you're into this type of thing, please hit that subscribe button, and we'll do more of this. Okay, so we kind of touched upon this, Alex. What do you think about, since Bill Russell just came up, and none of us, if you're a Gen Xer, you didn't really see Bill Russell play. I mean, you saw footage of him. You know that he won, was it 9 rings?
Yeah.
And you've heard the legend, but we never saw him play. What do you think about someone like that being in the discussion? And there, it's a whole era thing because there weren't as many teams,
Correct.
and the game, in terms of how it was played, it was just a different game back then.
Yes. I think it's an interesting argument, just due to the fact that he was able to do what he was doing at 6'9", um, and he stopped, or 11. That's right, 11. That's forgot.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that picture, and it's like, wait, he had one on each. There's a picture of I have a Bill Russell, and he has all of them, and he has two on his thumbs. I think it is. So that's or he has two on one thumb. Uh, or maybe it's his index finger. Yeah, he has two on his index finger. Um, I think it's interesting that he was able to do what he was able to do in that era with Wilt. That's the more interesting thing, is that he kind of, I mean, Wilt would score, you know, 60, 50, 60 points and lose. Bill Russell would have 20 rebounds, 17 points, 8 assists, 4 or 5 block shots and win. So uh, I I don't think we have enough information to really add him and analyze him probably the way that we need to,
Hmm.
due to the time difference. The era that he played in is just so far away. I don't think we have enough information to really pencil him, to really have a serious discussion around him at this time. So I can't say yes and I can't say no. I just feel like we just don't have enough information, about that era and about that time period. Because I think there were what, 12 or 15 teams, something like that. There weren't a lot of teams, and that team, from what I understand, was stacked. Like, they were stacked every single year. And it was kind of like the Golden State Warriors. When they had KD, it was just like a foregone conclusion they were going to win. It was kind of like they had the best, that they just had the best players on that team. Not to say that there weren't other Hall of Fame players in that era. They just had more talent, like superior talent. So I don't know if we necessarily know enough about the playing style. Well, I haven't taken a deep dive into the playing style and other things that go along with that era to make an argument for Bill Russell. But I definitely think it's worth taking a look at if we have this conversation again.
Okay. So Alex, who do you? Well, it sounds like Kobe shouldn't be in that discussion. Which players do you think should be in that discussion?
I think obviously Michael Jordan, Kareem, Wilt, maybe Wilt. I think Wilt's on kind of on the outside. Uh, LeBron.
Okay.
And there's a sneaky underdog that I believe, and that is probably I'm going to throw him in here just to make the conversation interesting. Tim Duncan.
Tim Duncan.
Tim Duncan.
Interesting.
I think not that I believe he's the GOAT, but I definitely think he's worth the conversation.
Okay.
So I'm probably leaning on no. Let's remove Tim Duncan because I don't think he really didn't do enough in his later years to really to be in that consideration. I think it was more of an organization. I'm not a big fan of Tim Duncan. He's just great. Like every time I watch him, I hate him even more every time I watched him play. He was just that good. So yeah, probably those four. And Magic. We can probably put Magic in that discussion. I also think if you put Magic in that discussion, you have to put Isaiah in that discussion, which means you have to put Larry Bird in that discussion. So now you're looking at what's that, 6? So Michael, LeBron, Kareem, Magic, Bird, and Isaiah. So
okay. If anyone wants to, thank you again, Eric, for that super chat. If anyone wants to donate anything by Cash App or PayPal, that information is here. Once again, if you're new, please consider subscribing. So, Alex, so you just ran off a bunch of names there. I'm going to pull my slide back up. And I think for me personally, one of the things that I will weight heavily is in the area of skill sets, who can get their own shot. So LeBron can get his own shot. Michael can get his own shot. I tend to like the versatile guys.
I think that's interesting. So and that kind of goes back to the original point. Like, are we talking just the best player, best scorer, best all around player? Like, it depends on what you're looking at. For me, it's the best all around player. I mean, I know who I believe is, but I have a bunch of different reasons why, and I don't think it's really close. But when you say best all around player, I'm definitely leaning Bird for one.
Okay.
Before the back injury, I mean, the way he was able to pass, Bird's shooting ability was unlike. I've never seen a better shooter than him in my entire life. I know everybody's on Steph Curry because he can shoot threes, but I'm just pure shooting, not 3-point shooting, pure shooting. I've never seen anybody shoot the ball like Larry Bird. He can get to a spot and there's nothing you can do about it, and he would just raise up. But his passing, still to this day, is I'm just like, holy cow! Like, man, this guy's vision is unreal. I feel the same way about Magic. I feel the same way about LeBron. not so much MJ, but I think MJ. I think the thing with MJ. Oh, and Kareem. Kareem was a very good passer. But he was tall and he could, basically pick the ball up and it would be like 8 feet in the air and he would just throw it wherever he wanted to. He was able to see overall the defense is very similar to Magic. And, Jordan played more. Jordan had a defined role, and that really wasn't really part of his game. At least he didn't display it. I'll say that. I'm not gonna say it's part of his game. I'll say he didn't display it as much as the other players that we're talking about.
Okay. Well, that's the other thing. Michael didn't. Well, Bird didn't play the point either.
Mm-mm.
But yeah, Bird, yeah, had a sick all-around game when he was in his prime.
Yeah.
Before all the injuries started to pile up. Okay. So who do you? We talked about guys in the discussion. Who do you think is the guy?
I'm going to preface it by saying this. Out of all the guys that we named, there's only one, just one, that hasn't had a coach that has won championships in multiple places.
Okay.
And that's LeBron.
Okay.
That is my opinion. LeBron's the best basketball player I've ever seen in my entire life, and I've seen a lot of basketball players in my day. I don't think it's close.
And you think he's the best basketball player because?
Because I think he was just as good as Jordan was defensively, or as any other player was defensively. You could say, well, he won this many defensive blah, blah, blah. Voters vote on that. Call it what you want. My eyes, I see what I see. I think he was the ultimate. LeBron is the ultimate team player. He's the ultimate player that will do whatever he can to not only win, but to be able to make his teammates better doing so, right? So I'll give you an example. Michael Jordan never won until he had Phil Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
He won in Milwaukee. He had Oscar Robertson, who I've met. I can't tell you how many times. Great guy, just like nicest guy ever. Probably one of the best point guards ever. Well, is one of the best point guards ever. But again, went to LA, won a couple chips. Same thing with Magic, and the only the one person that really was able to figure out how to he got the blueprint on how to win from everybody else. And if you think about, and this is kind of what I like when I think about LeBron and this discussion, I think about I think it was 2003. No, what finals was that? He came out, I want to say the finals that he went to when he beat the Pistons. That team at the time was supposed to be like the best defensive team of all time. He shredded that defense, and I mean they threw everything at him, and he just makes the correct play every single time, every time. And the idea behind, you could argue this is and this is where I land. You could argue MJ, right? But with MJ, you have two of the 50 greatest players that have ever played. Does he do that without them? He didn't, right? Okay, so that's fine. You look at Magic, who had Worthy and Kareem. Could he have done it? I actually believe Magic probably could have, but I think Magic was just that good. Could Larry have done it without Mikhail, without Dennis Johnson, and those guys? Maybe. I'm pretty sure he could have as well. But the fact that I think LeBron had some, I think that he probably could have won one without going to Miami. And by him going to Miami, I think that changes the argument. But I think he was going to win. He was there. He was right there. And back to my original statement, organizations, not players, win championships. I think that he is the best all-around player I've ever seen. I've never seen somebody do the things that he can do on a basketball court.
Okay.
I just have never seen it.
Okay, Alex, we have to stop there. Since you mentioned Miami, I have to play this.
Do it.
We also know you three kings came down here to win championships. Not one, championships.
Not two.
LeBron, tell us about that.
Not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7.
Okay. Going to college. Okay, so a couple things there with his legacy. And I think this is something that a lot of us from the 80s and the NBA, they legislated the free agency. So they enabled all of this. But a lot of people just kind of lost respect for this jumping around teams thing. I mean, KD's done it now. So it's like what people do. KD's done it. Kyrie's done it. Everybody's doing it. Go ahead.
I believe that people who look down upon that are hypocrites.
Okay. What does that mean?
It's okay if a team trades. It's okay if a team trades whoever they want to trade. But the moment you give a player a little bit of power, it's a problem. Now, granted, there's a reason why you have GMs for NBA teams, right? Because players are not very good GMs. We're not even going to touch that subject. But
are we talking about KD?
I mean, listen, there's a bunch of players who aren't very good.
And Michael.
Yeah, you could start. Listen, even Isaiah in New York. I mean,
Isaiah, yeah,
right. So I mean, players just don't make very good GMs. But there's a reason for that. But I think it's a very hypocritical argument when you give the players a little bit of power and they decide where they want to go. You know, it's okay if teams can decide, but the moment you give the players a little bit of power, you know, they don't like that. So that's why I say it's a little hypocritical, in my opinion.
Okay, we are almost at an hour, and I want to give some other folks thank you, everyone who's here. The chat's you guys are keeping the chat going pretty good here. So I want to bring some folks up on the hour. I'm going to ask you, since we're on LeBron, two more things about him. One of them is his killer instinct, because that's something that watching Michael, that was part of his MO. And you can make the argument that he was the precursor for the Mamba mentality. So, and you said LeBron makes the right plays. I mean, aren't there times when he should be more selfish? And weren't there times during his career when he should have been more selfish? That first time they won the title, I think they beat the Thunder. Late in that clinching game, he just took over. He just decided he was gonna shoot, and he was hitting 3-pointers, and he was hitting 15-footers, and he just decided he was gonna do it. And then there are times when he's a little bit too unselfish. I always looked at him and said, why doesn't he just take over all the time with his tools?
Because he understands the way a lot of great NBA players who've won championships understand that championships typically are won. They're won because you have a great player first, right? But the second part is your role players. How good did they play?
Mm-hmm.
And his basketball IQ, the way he looks at the game is similar, very similar to like Magic, where you already know you can get yours whenever that you want, right? But if I get this guy going, it's going to open everything up for me later on down the line. And when I get going, I can go right back to him because he's already warmed up. He's already hit a couple shots. So, he's playing the game from a mental standpoint at a very high level. Almost like, basically he's like a coach on the floor, so to speak. So, and that's not to say that other players don't do that. So let's not say that. Other players probably look at things very similarly, but he's not. I think part of the problem is you see Michael Jordan and you compare everything else to Michael Jordan. And when I see LeBron James, I just see a blank canvas that he's not Michael. He's just not. Like I don't compare everybody to Michael Jordan. I just look at the player, look at their skill set, and see what they do. Like I don't compare. I understand that's what a lot of people like to do. Like, oh, he doesn't have the killer mentality and blah 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 blah. That's fine. But if we're going off the idea that perception's reality, okay, then that's true. But if we're going off of who's made more clutch shots, it's LeBron. Those are the facts.
Okay, so Alex, I'm going to read this comment from Black Uru because I think it goes together with what I'm about to say. But in my mind, there's a difference between unselfishly trying to get everybody involved and then attacking the defense in such a way that you make them adjust. Okay. And it just seems like with him, he's so unselfish at times that he's not making the defense adjust. He's just being unselfish. Michael made the defense bring those double teams and
but Michael also played in a system.
Okay.
System. LeBron is the system.
LeBron is the system.
He's the system.
Okay.
That's the difference. That's it. It's clear as day. LeBron's the system. Michael Jordan played in the system. He played in the triangle. LeBron is the system. He controlled the tempo. He controlled the defense. He controlled everything on offense. And obviously, I'm speaking in his prime. He can't do that now. But in his prime, he controlled the entire game. Jordan played in a system that allowed him to control the game. LeBron really didn't play in the system. It was pick and roll. And he was doing what he saw on pick and roll. He was able to do everything off of one play every time down the floor.
Okay, I'm going to read this comment from Black Uru. He says, if LeBron made the right plays, he would have won more than 4 titles in 19 seasons.
That's not true.
So I made this comment on the last basketball hangout we did maybe a year and a half or 2 years ago. I always thought, and I don't want to make this about bashing LeBron and because he takes enough heat already, but I always thought that he should have developed, or maybe he has it and he just doesn't use it as much, his back to the basket game, the way Michael did, the way Magic did. It seems like he just wants to face the basket and dish the ball. But it goes back to making the defense adjust. He's big, he's strong, he's agile. I kind of agree with what Black Uber was saying right here. I agree.
So you think okay. So if that's the case, then if he always made the right play, he would have won more championships. I'll say this. If LeBron had Phil Jackson, how many championships do you think he would have won?
More than 4.
Exactly. More than 4. His journey is not the same. You can't compare apples to apples. You can't compare Michael Jordan to LeBron. You can't compare really. I mean, it's a tough comparison, but I'm just looking at just the best overall player. When you talk about organizations and coaches and GMs and all, players and all these things, like, do you think if LeBron had a GM like RC Buford, he would have won more championships his whole career? Or Jerry West? Or Jerry Krause? He would have had a better team. He probably would have won more. He went to an NBA Finals with a team that you can't name the starting 5.
So you're talking about that first Cleveland team?
You can't.
Ilgauskas and Boobie Gibson and who's on that team?
Eric Snow.
Sideshow. Not was it Sideshow Bob with the hair?
Drew Gooden.
Drew Gooden. But I'm thinking about the Brazilian guy too.
Anderson Varejao.
Anderson Varejao. Yeah.
Sasha Pavlovic. Yeah. Candace Parker's brother.
Oh, so Alex, so that's a thing of, and that's one of the things I think we were all looking for was for him to stick with that organization and grow it organically into a champion.
He can't do.
He went to South Beach.
That's my argument. Organizations win championships. Players don't win championships. Like, it's a false narrative. It really is. It's a false narrative.
Okay. Alex, I have a couple super chats here. I want to read something Abdul wrote, and then we're at an hour. You want to entertain some other panelists?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. Eric, thank you for these generous super chats. He says, when has Jordan walked out in the middle of games, quit in overtime, and pouted the way he did the other day? LeBron is 0-7 on game winners in the finals. Jordan is 4 for 8. Okay, so that's one. I think you have an interlocutor here, Alex. Black Uru Strikes says, you got to let me at this dude, Doc. So you got some smoke coming. Abdul said, LeBron dragged Keisha Cole's ex-husband to the finals. That's GOAT eligibility alone. And then there was another one Abdul said, I want to get here. Where is it? One of his classic lines. Kobe beat far better teams en route to the finals than MJ. LeBron beat far better teams for championships than MJ. And then there's one more super chat here, I think from Eric. Eric, thank you again. Eric says, LeBron would lose to Utah in 98 because he would have passed to Pippen, who was wide open instead of taking the shot over Russell. If LeBron had Phil Jackson, he would have gotten him fired. Okay. I'm going to show a quick meme, Alex, and then I'll drop the link. You can respond to whatever you want to. But everyone, this was a lot of crazy things were going across the internet last week when LeBron passed Kareem. I saw this one on Facebook. I'm not going to show who posted this, but this meme was on Facebook last week, and it's an anti-MJ meme. Does anyone remember the American Airlines 3-point shootout? Okay. Well, this, let me minimize that. Okay. It says, here are some other scary monsters that played in MJ's era. Lock your doors and hide your kids. They are coming. So this meme is disingenuous. This is from the 3-point shootout. So most of these guys, aside from Bird, are specialists. You have Bobby Hansen, Craig Elo, Reggie. Reggie was a good specialist, but he was a specialist. John Sunvold, Who knows about John Sunbold? You had to be alive in the 80s and 90s to know who John Sunbold was, and Mark Price. So 4 of these guys, you can't say, oh, that was MJ's competition. No, some of these guys were specialists and role players. Anyway, Alex, I want to drop the link. What say you?
It's almost like having a power forward playing a skills competition that point guards typically participate in.
Okay.
I mean, like point guards specialize in.
I think you're frozen there.
Forwards don't have. It's the exact same.
Okay. Everyone, I just dropped the link. So if you want to come up and say your piece, now is the time. Alex, you still there?
Yeah.
Where is that? All right. We have the master teacher who is a basketball scholar and aficionado in his own right. Welcome.
I just want to say to I am Eric Hall that who's open reference is Phil Jackson telling Michael Jordan to pass the goddamn ball to the open player in 1991. Who's open? Get him the ball. Okay, that's what it's referenced to. So passing to the open guy is something that coaches teach you. If you can take it, take it. The thing is that when I say who's open, Jordan did the exact same thing in 1991 for his first championship. Pass it to the open guy. Okay, for the winning shot. Who's open?
Here's my question: if the guy misses a shot, whose fault is it?
If the guy misses a shot, it's the guy's fault that took the shot.
Okay, but if the guy makes the shot, whose fault is it?
If the guy makes the shot, then it's in other words, whoever takes the shot, that's his fault. Whether he makes it or misses, he gets the victory. He gets to beat the accolades. But the thing is, it's up to the coach to actually call that play. Okay, who's open? Okay, if it goes against the coach, then if you goes against the coach, you miss that shot. Basically, it's on you because the coach told you to do something else. But the thing is, I want to say that it depends on the circumstance. Okay, like when I say who's open, you say he took the shot in 98 because somebody else was open. He also didn't take the shot in 91. Okay, to win a championship. So it depends on the circumstance. You can't just go by that.
No.
I also want to say this about LeBron, because we had this discussion about LeBron James against the Golden State Warriors. Okay, if LeBron doesn't turn on his gas and actually become that kind of player, they don't win that. They don't win that series at all, not even close. LeBron had to come be the king, and we actually said it at the time, right? If you come at the king, you bet not miss. That's what Green said the last time. I should have kept my mouth shut because he's a better player. He's a dominant player, and basically, just like anything else, those other players are actually role players. If he doesn't take up the gravity and take up the oxygen, those players don't get their shots off. Okay, it's not one of those things that I scored 30. Yeah, you scored 30 because LeBron's is actually catching all the attention. You have the ability you have one-on-one coverage. You can't score 30 if you're being double teamed, especially not him. He had one-on-one coverage.
LeBron can't
I'm talking about Kyrie. Kyrie don't score 30 without LeBron taking up the oxygen in the room because they have to double team him.
They don't really double team now, BGS. They don't double team right now like they used to.
Yes, they do.
Yeah,
yes, they do. They say, you gotta watch. You don't watch basketball, man.
Look, yes, they do. Look, BGS. I break down film, and one you brought up 91, and if you look at that particular play, Jordan gave up the ball in the backcourt before he crossed to the front court. I'm thinking of 93 Phoenix. He got the double team against Paxson in 91.
In other words,
but Kyrie came out firing. I mean, what you're trying to say is like Kyrie, he don't score 25 just because he's Kyrie. He's done that at other teams and other stops he's went to. So Kyrie is not a scrub. So to say,
I didn't say what.
But Kyrie came out firing in Game 5, and he had a big first half, and then he and LeBron carried him home. So that was a very big momentum game. So I'm not saying he doesn't do this or do that, but without LeBron. But to say that LeBron beat them all by himself when you had another man putting up 30, that's that's a mischaracterization.
What I'm saying is LeBron doesn't put that team on his back. That team does not win. Okay?
You cannot.
Go ahead, Black Guru. What happened? You there? If LeBron,
but you cannot leave out what happened in that series. Was Andrew Bogut getting hurt? When Andrew Bogut went down, that's
you're breaking up.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit.
Changed that series more than anything else. He helped because of his size. Was setting up. Okay, I'll change my audio and come back.
Yeah, what he's saying with Bogut got hurt, that the rim protection went away, which opened up a lot of pathways to the basket and their top screen setter. But I disagree when you say organizations win titles, because the Spurs, they haven't won anything since Kawhi left, and they essentially had that same team in the 90s with Popovich was in the front office, Buford was there, they had David Robinson. They started winning in 99, like 3 or 4 years after they got Tim Duncan. And since
first year.
Duncan was drafted in what, 98?
He won in the shortened season, 50 games.
But then wasn't he drafted the year before though? In 98, he played.
But 99 is the year they played the championship, sir.
Yeah.
No, what I'm saying is Duncan was drafted in 98.
Yes, but he plays in 98 in the
there's a lockout.
Right. I'm not talking about the lockout season.
Eric. You drafted in 98. You played the championship the next year, right?
BGS. What I'm saying is, Buckeye Alex. Hold on. Let me make my point, BGS.
Okay.
Let me make my point.
Okay.
Buckeye Alex is saying that organizations win championships, not players.
They do.
Now they had the same organization up until 98 when they drafted Duncan. They won in 99, and then since Kawhi has left, they still have the same organization, same Greg Popovich. They're not winning. So it's organizations and players. It's not just the organization itself. That's the point I was making.
Who drafts the players?
So can I piggyback off?
Go ahead.
So that is correct. But my point initially is that players cannot get they can't get sole credit for winning championships. Organizations as a whole win championships. The reason why I say that is because there's a reason why the Sacramento Kings haven't won a championship. There's a reason why the Orlando Magic haven't won a championship. The Charlotte Hornets, Bobcats, whatever you want to call them, New Orleans, Indiana, New York in the last 30 years, Minnesota. Like I can go on and on and on. There's only a handful of teams,
right?
That win championships.
New York hasn't won it since the 70s,
right? Yeah. But they have like the Knicks. Their best teams was in the 90s, right? And they ran against the Bulls.
No, the best teams were in the 70s.
Sacramento hasn't had good teams since the late 90s, and people could talk about that controversy.
The best teams were in the 70s.
Was that
when their best teams were in the 70s
for the Sacramento Kings?
No. New York Knicks.
Yeah, I said the Knicks haven't been great since the 90s. That was their best chance to win in the 90s with Ewing and those guys. And then I went to Sacramento and said Sacramento haven't had good players that stayed since the Chris Webber those years. And you may even say that they got screwed by Donahue.
The organization sucks.
And they don't have any players.
The organization sucks.
Like
they don't have players.
No, the organization sucks.
Okay, do the Spurs organization suck?
They did before.
Well, what about now?
Huh?
What about now?
You go through cycles just like the Lakers did, and Boston did, and New York, and all the other teams.
But what I'm saying is, it's the players. The Spurs got Duncan. They were decent with Robinson. They got Duncan, and then they turned it over to Kawhi. When Kawhi left, they've gone downhill.
Okay,
and the Bulls, you say they're a good organization. They haven't done anything since Jordan left.
They haven't
done Derrick Rose before he got hurt.
Jerry Krause is gone.
Yeah.
just Jordan. It's not him by himself.
No, they fell off with Jerry Krause. Jerry Krause brought in Tim Floyd. He brought in Jay Williams. He got hurt. He had Brand and Chandler, and he couldn't. And that team fell apart.
You have to look at organization as a whole, like your scouts, your managers, and stuff like that. You have to look at the organization as a whole. That's why the Lakers keep winning.
No, the Lakers keep winning because LA is a marquee place that players want to go.
No. Well, the same thing with the Clippers. How come the Clippers haven't won? They're in the same market.
Because they haven't gotten the players. The players
they're in the same market though. They're in the same market.
And I live in Dallas, right? I'm not a Dallas fan, but I live in Dallas. The Cowboys were awesome in the 90s, and they haven't changed the organization now, and they haven't sniffed the Super Bowl since 95. Same organization. Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones. That has been the head of the Dallas Cowboys organization, and they haven't won since 95.
What about the rest of it? When you change the organization, like we're going through this in LA, where they got rid of the winning organizations that was put together that won all the championships, right? They got rid of all those people, right? Even though they have LeBron and what's his name? They're struggling. And Davis, they're struggling, okay? Because they're making bad organizational moves. When you wipe out the organization like that, guess what happens? Same thing. When what's his name moved down to Miami? Why is Miami still good?
They went to the finals 2 years ago. They're decent. They don't have the players
because of Pat Riley.
Right, but what I'm saying, but they have players and a good coach.
In other words, that's an organization, sir.
He's the prime example of organization.
Right.
Ulster is a good coach.
Pat Riley. Miami was nothing before Pat Riley. Nothing.
Right, but they don't have, the reason they aren't winning now is because they have decent team, but they don't have a superstar player.
The thing is, go ahead.
They won because of the people that were in place within that organization to identify the players. That's why teams win.
Yeah.
That's why they win. That's it.
Players win the championship. Not like, okay, you can have a good organization, but they're not winning. Okay, why are the Patriots not winning? Tom Brady and Gronk left. Same Bill Belichick, same Robert Kraft. They do not have the players.
What's missing from this discussion is how a single player can change the environment and facilitate management then being able to build a winning organization. When Mike came to Chicago, the Bulls had what? 8 different coaches in 18 seasons prior to his coming there. They had a couple of winning seasons with the guy who coached, late great coach of the Jazz, Sloan, Jerry Sloan, and Norm Van Leer and those guys. But by and large, they had been a losing organization. When Mike came, he had 4 coaches, I think, in his first 6 seasons.
Yeah.
But because Mike was so great, and you would probably have to be in Chicago to really kind of see what happened there. Because he was so great, he put pressure on that organization to build a championship around him. It wasn't just, Jerry Krause was a baseball scout when he was hired by Reinsdorf. He wasn't any sort of great recruiter of basketball players and organizers of a basketball team, but they had Michael Jordan. And he was so great that it would be embarrassing to that organization for them to not supply him with the help to win. So, this great Krause management, Krause got 5 or 6 lottery picks after he broke up the Bulls. Those teams didn't sniff the playoffs, much less the conference finals or a finals. So this great organization thing, I think kind of a false dichotomy is being presented here. Obviously, you need somebody who actually are making good decisions about staffing and coaching and player selection and development. Of course, that's important. But whenever I look at a great team, you almost always see one particular great player or several particular great players, and they're almost always also great leaders. And they put pressure on the organizations to win. That's what I've seen.
The thing is, we've seen a whole lot of great players that never sniffed at a championship. Whole lot of them. The list is long. Charles Barkley's one of them.
Ran into Jordan.
But a lot of great players are flawed. You know, Barkley was flawed.
They're all flawed.
You know, Dominique was flawed. You know, they were flawed either in how they played and true, the organization in Philadelphia was not great. It had descended after Doc retired and I guess they traded Moses. And, you know, the biggest problem with what happened in Philly, in my opinion, was the ankles of Andrew Toney. That's what really kind of wrecked that Phillies team. Because Andrew Toney was almost Jordan before Jordan. For you younger guys.
But the thing is, Tony was good, but the thing is that they had to go up against Boston every year. Okay, you can't forget that.
Bruh, if you recall, he was called the Boston Strangler. If you recall that.
But the thing is,
he was the one who inspired the chant from the Boston fans, "Beat LA," because he had so thoroughly throttled Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals.
How many players flame out in the NBA?
A lot. The majority of them.
Too many.
That's true. That's true. But my point is, I believe in organization, but I also believe that almost all of them have one great seminal player that makes it easy. Tom Brady made it easy for Belichick to make a lot of moves that he made. And as we see now with Brady being gone, it ain't that easy now. The brilliant, the genius Bill Belichick don't look as much of a genius lately.
The thing is, New England went to 4 Super Bowls before Brady, okay? 4 Super Bowls before Brady.
But that wasn't when Belichick was there. They last went in the late 90s.
It's an organization, though. That's what we're talking about.
But they had never won.
Yeah,
like I think we getting on this organization thing.
No.
It's a combination of factors.
Why the same teams keep showing up over and over again?
Because they have the better players. That's why the Yankees be winning. They always have the better players.
It's the organization, sir.
Tell me an organization that don't have no players that won.
Organization.
Let's look at the last few NBA titles.
Yep.
Golden State. Milwaukee. Tell me about Milwaukee organization.
How many have they won?
They won one. Recently.
One. They had to assemble a team. Guess who keeps showing up over and over again?
Milwaukee.
No.
Golden State.
Organization.
Golden State has better players than Milwaukee.
It has a better organization that put these players together.
They have a better team with better players.
Who puts the players together, sir?
The team does.
The team. I can tell you the championship that the Lakers won was because because the organization actually sold out the players, convinced LeBron to come and trade it for AD. Right? They had to move a whole lot of pieces to actually do that. That's organization. That's not. And
they missed the playoffs last year with 5 great Hall of Famers.
It's because they put the organization put the team together wrong, even though they had better players.
And I don't think the guys.
So it's the players, it's not the organization. It's the same organization.
No, Eric. No.
Does the organization play or not?
Here's the thing.
Does the organization play or not?
Eric, give
okay, let me ask this question. All right,
Eric,
give him a chance to respond. Let's pause for a second.
No. You give him a chance to respond.
Is Miami Heat a good organization?
Yes.
And they lost 2 out of 4 finals. So explain that.
You got there though, didn't you?
It's not about getting there. It's about winning.
You have to get there before you win it, don't you?
I value winning.
Well, you don't have to. You have to get there first, sir.
So it's only winning. So you only value. So in your definition, winning championships is only winning.
What do you mean?
You said you value winning. So
as far as players, but if we talk about overall life and all this other secondary, holistic stuff, no. But the object, the teams play to win the game. That's why they play. So they play to win the game.
Okay, so let me ask you this. So out of 30 teams, right, 2 get there. How do you get there to even have a chance?
And who do they remember? The person who won or the
it
person
doesn't
who
matter.
lost?
That's not the point, sir.
It doesn't matter to you. It matters to me, though.
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, sir. It doesn't matter, sir. You got to get there.
So what you're saying is that a team who loses the NBA Finals, like that can't be a successful year from a team or organizational standpoint.
Depends on how you look at it. Was your goal to lose the NBA Finals, or was your goal to win the NBA Finals? If your goal was to lose the finals, then yeah, you won.
You had to get there.
Wow.
What was your goal?
You got to get there. How do you?
Do you remember who lost to Usain Bolt in the Olympics?
Yeah, actually, we do.
Okay, what's his name? Tell me right now.
It was Gaston, wasn't it?
Nah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one game,
And the other year?
the light skinned guy?
No,
other
the
year?
dark guy. Yeah.
And the other year?
It doesn't matter.
Oh, now it don't matter. Okay, exactly. Because remember winning.
No, Eric, you got to get there. Okay, you got to get there. How many teams actually get to a championship?
How many teams win?
How many teams get to a championship, sir?
Two.
You got to get there first. How many teams actually don't get to the championship?
Do people say
How many teams don't get to the championship?
Okay, so Charles Barkley.
How many teams don't get to? How many teams don't get to the championship?
28.
Huh? 28.
So Charles Barkley should be happy, because you mentioned all these people who never won titles, but they got the finals, so they should be happy.
Hey, Clippers never got to a championship, sir.
So Buffalo Bills
Clippers have never gotten to a championship.
Straight,
Clippers have never even sniffed a championship.
And that means what?
Sacramento Kings. How many other players? How many other teams? How many other teams never got there? How many other teams never even got there?
Okay, I'm just different, right? I'm someone who wants to complete the task.
You are
not
different.
Go to work. That's like saying you want to go to work and not get paid, but you went
to
work to that. No, I want the money.
I don't think it's championship or bust. I think the championship thing is mostly a tiebreaker.
Yeah.
Like, when we talk about how great this player is or that group, Dominique Wilkins was a great player. There's no world where Dominique Wilkins was not a great player. Yeah. But he never even got to, I think, a conference championship.
Yeah,
he got to a conference.
The Atlanta Hawks teams were great.
Like so I'm not excited because the Falcons went to the Super Bowl and blew the lead and blew out. That doesn't do anything for me. As someone who grew up in Atlanta, watching the Falcons get into the Super Bowl and losing there and in 98, 99, that does nothing for my psyche. I don't want the second place championship belt. I want the championship belt that says we won.
How about teams that never?
But that doesn't mean that there weren't great players on that team.
No, I'm not saying. But teams don't say, "Hey, I want to wake up and win the silver medal. I want to wake up and get the second best." Now I want to wake up and do that.
All right, Eric. All right, Eric.
I don't think anybody's saying that.
But okay. So Michael Jordan wins an MVP in 1998, and he loses to the Detroit Pistons.
You talking about 88 or 98? 88 or 98?
88. Apologies. 88.
Yeah.
Right. 88.
Or Jerry West.
So should he have not gotten the MVP, or in that same year the DPOY, the Defensive Player of the Year award, because he lost to Detroit in the playoffs?
So I think we're equating regular season and postseason to
come on,
don't.
No.
I'm gonna.
No, but now you're moving the goalpost. Now you're moving the goalpost. You're moving the goalpost.
I'm not moving the goalpost.
He tap dancing now.
No, I'm not tap dancing.
Yeah, you're moving the goalpost, bro.
No, what I'm saying
did he or did he not have a great season in 87, 88?
That was probably the best individual.
That's all we're talking about. That's all we're talking about.
No, we're talking about individual player. He's talking about team success.
Tap dancing.
I'm not tap dancing. Don't do that, BGS. Don't do that.
You tap dancing.
No, don't do that.
Yes, yeah, I'm doing that. You tap dancing.
Don't do that, BGS.
Tap. Where's your top at, man?
Don't do that, BGS.
There's a top hat, Eric.
Don't do that.
I'm doing it.
I don't.
Okay. I'll be the tap dancer because in your words, I should be happy because I'm on stage.
No, you don't have to be happy, but you tap dancing on the subject.
I ain't tap dancing on the subject.
I mean, as far as this organization, win championships, Krause made that statement somewhat derisively in response to some questions from a reporter. Dr. Jerry Buss was a great builder of a team and organization, as was the great Jerry West. Great builders of also, teams. Let me finish. Let me finish. I'm
gonna add to it. So was the Celtics, right?
Cool.
The first organization actually built championships, right? Go back to that. Red, what's the name? Red.
No, but my point. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because guess what? Auerbach had been coaching for 10 seasons prior to the matriculation of Bill Russell into their organization, and he never got anywhere near winning a championship. So Bill Russell, organizations build championships. Everybody talks about all of the great players that Bill so-called played with, but Bill was a straw that stirred the fucking drink. It all originated from all those championships. There were no Celtic championships before Bill Russell showed up. After Bill Russell shows up, there's 11 championships in 13 seasons.
How about
and one of those seasons he got hurt.
What about after he retired? How many did they win?
They won. Well, they won in 81. They won in 84.
No.
They won in 80.
They won like 2 in the 70s, right?
Oh no, and then they won 2 in the 70s. You're right. They won 2 in the 70s. My bad. Yeah. With Cowens and Havlicek. Yeah.
With the organization, right?
Right.
That's an organization. That's what we're talking about.
They maintained the organization, but Bill was the bedrock of that organization. Bill played with Havlicek and those guys. Havlicek won 5 championships
I understand
with Bill.
But the thing is that what they did. But the thing is, the organization put these players together. Okay.
Yeah, and I agree. Like I said, I think we've been kind of arguing a kind of a false dichotomy here, because I don't think it's either or. This
argument goes back to Wilt versus the Celtics, right? What was the best player? Hands down, everybody said that, but he couldn't win. That's where organization versus player actually started with the Celtics and Wilt.
But did Will not win because of organization, or did he not win because of style of play? Because he won in what he won in 67. Was it 67? But his style of play that season was very different than the 6 or 7 or 8 seasons prior to that. It was much more. He was doing much more. He didn't score as much more distribution and assists and help defense and that sort of thing. He played a different sort of game that season.
And also the Warriors went from Philadelphia to Golden State, which is a different organization.
Yeah.
And he went to the Lakers. They had an organization. Okay.
That's true. That's true. But he also played differently in LA. He didn't play like the young Will Chamberlain in LA.
Of course he didn't, because he had better players around him.
That's part of it. That's all. It may also be that you got Elgin Baylor. You're gonna have to give some of that up to Elgin Baylor.
You have better players around you. That's what you can do that. Because he wanted to win a championship. Okay, that's why he went to a different organization, which they had to pay a whole lot of money to get him there.
Yeah, like I say, I'm all for the organization being responsible for building a great team, but I also, there are certain players that are winners, and certain players play. You guys were comparing LeBron James to Michael Jordan. That's not a really good comparison. Mike came up in a different era. He had a different kind of game, a very different kind of training. Mike played for Dean Smith and then Bobby Knight and Krzyzewski on the Olympic team. And then, Doug Collins was a decent coach, but then he gets Phil Jackson. And then in the next Olympics, he's being coached by Chuck Daly. Just the caliber of training and direction that he got is very different from that of LeBron. I don't think LeBron can take basketball instruction as well and defer as well as Mike did.
I think Wilt and LeBron have the same problem, right? They're so physically gifted that they don't try as hard. Okay, they're gifted. Mm-hmm. Whereas Michael and even Kobe are very intense players. They practice hard, they play hard, they work on their game constantly. Okay, whereas LeBron, I would even say Shaq, LeBron, and Wilt. Okay, they don't work as hard. They just don't have because they're physically gifted. that was Wilt's problem. He didn't
Yeah, I
score.
mean, if LeBron had came off the ball about 10 years ago and like really played more like a classical small forward, he probably would be the GOAT.
So let me
He
get
has
the
the gifts to be the GOAT, but
so-
you don't have you
Yeah.
have the same mentality.
Yeah.
okay. So
Yeah.
let's stick to that argument for a second. Who could they have brought in to make that happen? The organization. Who could they have brought in to make that happen?
Coach wise,
Yes.
I mean, there are lots of people, brother. Phil Jackson was coaching. Hold on. Let me give you some historical perspective.
Mhm.
You know, Phil Jackson was coaching in the CBA before he came to Chicago.
Yeah.
Phil Jackson wasn't some great legendary figure like Pat Riley or anything when he came to Chicago.
Well, Pat Riley.
There was a
wasn't
lot
either.
of suspicion.
Pat Riley wasn't
Exactly.
either.
Same. Exactly. That's another example. Yeah. Who was this guy wearing the slick suits? I mean, with the slick hair and the, Armani suits, and who is this joker?
It
He
came
looks
out
more
of
like
the
a movie
broadcast.
star than a coach.
Came out of the broadcast booth.
Yeah. So I mean, you asked that question as if that would have been a difficult thing. There are a lot of great coaches, or a lot of great potential coaches, but ultimately, how great you're going to be able to be is to what extent you're a superstar player is going to allow you to coach. Mike agreed to come off the ball. He agreed to play the triangle. He was a superstar. He had already won MVPs. Mike could have told him, get Phil's ass up out of here, him and Tex Winter with this triangle shit.
Yeah.
Which I think is likely what LeBron would have done, frankly.
So, one, I don't think that. But maybe, just maybe, because LeBron is so good at what he does, coaches try to play that up versus taking him off the ball.
I think the only person you could have brought in to actually convince him of that was either Phil Jackson or Pat Riley. Pat Riley convinced him, do you want to win a championship? He wouldn't take LeBron's shit.
I don't think LeBron does well in triangle offense.
And it's not about the triangle. It's about
well,
being a
I
good
mean,
player.
if he actually developed an off the ball game, a mid range game, a post up game, like a classical small forward, he would have flourished in a triangle.
He's not.
He doesn't move well without the ball, and it doesn't have mid range. And I also think BJ's. I think Larry Brown, because he was able to do that with AI, he may have been.
No, Larry Brown, that would have been explosive. No, that wouldn't have worked, bro. That wouldn't. No, Larry Brown got a rep. That wouldn't have worked.
Larry Brown, I like that.
Wouldn't work.
No.
LeBron isn't nearly as as AI was back in the day. I actually like that.
No, I think LeBron is like my son. He's not hard headed. He just doesn't have the intensity. I think he needs somebody like Pat Riley.
Yeah. So Alex, that's something.
If he would listen to Phil, it would be great. If he would have listened to him, I don't think he listens to him.
I think LeBron has to have somebody that he respects.
Well, him and Phil got beat.
Don't all great players?
Huh?
Don't all great players have to be coached by somebody they respect?
Some do, some don't. So like Kobe, probably not. Okay, he's gonna do like take Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan is very coachable. Doesn't matter who the coach is.
Well, he only had one.
But Tim Duncan has the personality. Doesn't matter who the coach is.
Yeah.
Right.
So Tim Duncan is a good soldier. Tim Duncan is a good soldier type.
Yeah.
And
the exception, the exception can't be the rule. He's the exception to all that.
Okay, so guys, I'm gonna.
Great players have to respect their coach.
You got what's his name? Curry up in Golden State. He's coachable. Okay, he's gonna do the right play. He's gonna make the right play regardless.
I think that whole team is.
Yeah, that's how that whole place is. Everybody up there just wants to do the right thing,
except Green.
So hold on, guys. I'm gonna go for about 30 more minutes. About 30 more minutes, but I want to go back to Black Uru. So Black Uru, so you're of the opinion that there are other aspects of LeBron's game that he just consciously has not developed.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I think he's inflexible And I think because he's inflexible with his game, he to some degree he cannibalizes what other people might do in a more other teammates might do in a more winning way. Like people make a lot of, for example, triple doubles and statistical numbers, and they say, well, he's great. He got 30 points. He's got 10 rebounds. He's got 12 assists. But I kind of look at that like, okay, that's great for him individually, but maybe if we had some other guys making some of those contributions, we're moving the ball around more, you actually have a more potent team. And I think the ultimate example of that for a better part of 20 years were the Spurs, where you never had anybody who had any incredible stat lines or whatever per se. But because things were much more dispersed, it just made the team just so much more potent. And I think LeBron's biggest problem is because he doesn't play off the ball, then he kind of hogs too much of the offense to himself, I believe.
Interesting.
If he was like Magic, where it's like, okay, I am going to do a lot of assisting or whatever, but I'm not going to score as much. I really am going to be a pass first point guard, basically. Then that would be a different thing. But he doesn't really do that.
Okay.
He doesn't really commit to that style of play as much as anywhere near what Magic did.
Okay, so I'm going to push back on that and say this. How many Hall of Famers does Tim Duncan play with?
Well, I'm sorry, I missed part of that question. How many Hall of Famers were?
How many Hall of Famers has Tim played with? How many?
Well, I mean, I guess, obviously David Robinson's, I guess, already in the Hall of Fame.
Would you say?
I guess Ginobili and Parker will be in the Hall of Fame. And Kawhi.
He also overlapped with Ori, too. Yes.
The Ori thing is kind of up in the air, because it's like, well, he got 7 rings, but, he was never a star player, so that kind of thing.
Okay.
And I think Parker's more of a Hall of Famer for his international play. He was a great point guard. I put him in because if you switch Parker and Derek Fisher, the outcome is the same. He just fit really, really well with that team.
Correct. I agree with that.
No, but Parker is a much more talented basketball player than Fisher.
Fisher
much more talented basketball player.
Better defensive.
I mean, Fisher's a great supporting player, but he's not. He's not Parker. Yeah, hell no.
What I'm saying is, if you switch Parker with Kobe, is the results the same? I think Parker fits very, very good in that system. Same with Avery Johnson before. Avery Johnson fit good in that system in 99 and 2003. Parker is good internationally. He doesn't have a lot of range. He gets in the paint. He does very, very well, and it fits very, very well with that team. Same way I feel about Draymond Green. You put him on another team, he doesn't fit well with that team.
No, I think Parker could have played.
I'm much more likely to think Tony Parker would be a star player outside of San Antonio than Draymond Green being a star outside of Golden State.
I definitely don't think Draymond Green would be out of state. I still think Tony Parker is a good player. I just don't think he's had a Hall of Fame career. He's a perennial All-Star, but I don't think he's had a Hall of Fame career in the U.S. Internationally, yes. Same with Kukoc. Kukoc was an okay NBA player, but he's Hall of Fame because his international play.
Well, the team that you're on,
Tony Parker won the Finals MVP, man. Look, you kind of making apples and hold on, you make apples and oranges comparison. Tony Parker was one of the 2 or 3 best players on several of those championship teams. Kukoc was never one of the 2 best players on the Bulls team. Not ever.
No.
Well, not during the championship years. So that's an apples and oranges comparison.
I'm just ranking Tony Parker against his peers. He's like, if you ask me, Tony Parker or Kevin Johnson, I'm taking Kevin Johnson every time.
Man, I saw Tony Parker giving Gary Payton that work. I mean, I ain't too many guys could even hardly stay in front of Tony Parker, man. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Give him his props.
I'm still taking Kevin Johnson.
Depends.
Oh, Kevin Johnson was fantastic. No, hey, I might agree with you that Kevin Johnson, maybe all around, was a better player than Parker. You know, Kevin Johnson was a 2010 dude several seasons.
He
But no, you know, KJ was fantastic. The only thing that got him was injuries. He was fantastic.
Right, but he's not in the Hall of Fame. He wasn't as good a shooter either. So,
but back to my original point, because this is a point I was trying to make.
Mm-hmm.
You're stating that if LeBron would have went off ball and let other players, if he would have went to a traditional small forward role, which he's not a small forward, he's basically a point guard.
Yeah.
Who's gonna give him the ball, and who else is gonna make plays besides him?
Well, you then staff your team in such a way that complements what you need. That's what you do.
But they didn't.
You draft or trade for or get a free agent who's a good. And here's the thing with LeBron, you don't necessarily need a Hall of Fame point guard per se because of how great he is.
The finals with Eric,
but you know,
point guard. He got to the finals with Eric Snow.
But you're kind of making my point though. But the problem was when he got to the finals. Hey, bro, here was the problem when he got to the finals. He couldn't shoot.
Yeah.
Because he did not at that time, and he's just only really slightly better today. He did not learn to play off the ball. He had to have the ball in his hand to be effective offensively. And when that great defensive team of the Spurs got on his ass, he was done.
The only time he was ever able to play off the ball was when he had an all-star caliber player. It's only happened twice. I'm sorry, 3 times.
No, but you know, look, when you're the great LeBron James, your style of play.
Let him finish.
And then with AD, those are the only times he's ever been able to play off the ball. His whole career, he's played with less than talent. That's definitely not true, man. It definitely wasn't true in Miami. I mean, come on, bro. Come on now. They couldn't put a good team together.
And Cleveland. It wasn't true in Miami.
Yeah, I mean, come on, man. Come on. This legend of LeBron never having great. I mean, they rattled off all of the All-Stars and the future Hall of Famers this guy's played with. Come on with that.
Who in Cleveland? Who?
Kyrie Irving, rookie of the year. Hold on. Rookie. Okay.
The first time.
When you talk about, are you talking about all-star players or point guards?
Their Cleveland team sucks. Okay, without LeBron.
Thank you.
It sucked without LeBron. Let's be honest.
That man left that team and they won 16 games.
Yeah, but let's talk about they left. Wallace left. Shaq left. Baron Davis was injured. Jameson was injured. So don't make it seem like LeBron. Like people do this. Like Jordan left, they won 2 less games. Well, Jordan left. They added Kerr. They added Kukoc. Hold on, let me make my point. They added Kerr. They added Kukoc. They had the same championship cast, but then the next year they fell off. When LeBron left Cleveland, he left. Shaq left. Coach left. Wallace left. Jameson was injured. Barishaw was injured. Baron Davis was injured. So it's a lot of factors.
Old, retired, and old.
Well, it's a lot of so it wasn't him. It was a lot of players, and their core was mostly injured. Same with Miami when LeBron left. Wade was hurt. Bosh had his heart issues, and then the very next year when they were healthy, they were back in the playoffs. They didn't win, but they were back in the playoffs.
Right. So, like, I mean, there was a lot of turnover because they had a lot of older players on those teams.
Because they were in win now mode. I mean, they missed. They had the best record in the NBA in 2008, 2009, and 2010. They were picked to get to the finals. They didn't get there, and then he didn't get there with Miami that year with that superstar team. So he had superstars in Miami, 2 out of 4. Superstars in Cleveland, 1 out of 4. Superstars in LA, 1 out of 5.
Yeah, I mean, again, this whole business of LeBron not playing with nobody, man. You LeBron guys, y'all got to let that go, man. But like I say, because of how he plays, you're not going to maximize your talent playing with LeBron James.
Everybody says that about LeBron.
And this dude is playing with dudes who are barely all-stars. That's what I'm saying.
Well, let's look at something, right? Okay. And when we bring up 2007 when they went to the finals, all right. Game 1, LeBron 10 points. Anderson Varejao 13, Larry Hughes 13, Big Z 22. So who was the weak link right there? Scoring wise, who carried who?
He pulling receipts, bro.
Who carried who? All right, that's game 1. LeBron had the monster game in game 5. Let's go game 6. Hold on, let me pull this up right here. Let me find Cleveland. Hold on.
Well, and let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question while he pulls that up. How many All-Stars? How many All-Stars did Michael Jordan play with?
1.
2. 1.
1.
Three.
Who was
Scottie Pippen.
Scottie Pippen.
Scottie Pippen is the only player who were on an active All-Star team during any of those championship runs. And he wasn't even an All-Star during all of those championship runs.
Top 75 players. Let's not do this.
Okay, let's stop right there, right? Is Westbrook top 75?
Heck no.
Okay, but do you realize Westbrook averages more points, more rebounds, more assists than Pippen, has more cumulative points, more cumulative rebounds, more assists than Pippen. So who's the better player?
Pippen.
And he got an MVP. And he got an MVP.
Pippen.
Okay, so that's why when we talk about all these cumulative numbers, you throw that out the window. But Westbrook is a top 75 player. He's the all-time leader in triple doubles. So to say he not playing with nobody, that's just a false dichotomy.
If Anthony Davis is a top 75 player of all time, Russell Westbrook is damn well a top 75 player of all time.
Does not fit on that team. It's a bad
No, he doesn't fit on that team.
I think he's a top 75 player.
Well, that's debatable because I don't think Harden is top 75 either, but he's there.
That's the problem with him. Westbrook can't shoot.
I don't think Harden is top 70, but he's there.
I totally agree.
Westbrook can't shoot, man. Okay,
Westbrook doesn't understand how to play basketball.
Well, look, but again,
he's an athlete.
Again, we talk about
athlete.
errors, we talk about talent. He is a talent. So to say one person played with people and didn't play with people, but I do have the receipts from Game 6 after LeBron had that monster Game 6 in the final game. Gibson led the team with 31.
What was his Tell me the stats for the series.
All right. We going game by game.
Okay.
All right. So game 6.
Series is this?
Game 6.
Which series is this?
This the one where they went to the finals in 2007.
Okay.
I gave you game 1 where LeBron was trash. The closeout game. LeBron 3 of 11.
Okay.
He had a good game rebounding at 14. Good from the free throw line. 14 and 19, 18 assists.
Well,
Daniel Gibson led that team with 31.
Kick him off the team.
How many? How many
him off the team. Don't start him.
How many assists does LeBron have?
He had 8.
Okay.
Don't start him.
No. So what I'm saying is we're trying to say LeBron. Hold on. Let me make my point. My point is
what year was LeBron in?
Hold on. LeBron. What now?
What year was he in?
This was 2007 when they went to the finals.
What year was he? How many?
4.
Okay.
All right. So the point I'm trying to make. Hold on. Can I make my point? My point is people are trying to say he carried those players when some of those players had big games in key moments. So that's not entirely true from a fact standpoint and from a breaking down of film standpoint.
Let me ask you this: you're coaching, right? You're coaching, right?
Really?
No. Hold on a second. You're coaching, right, Eric? Okay.
Yeah.
Who do you actually make your plans for? Boobie Gibson?
Oh, I make the plans for the best player. Would that be LeBron?
Exactly. So if LeBron's not playing, does Boobie score 30?
Does he score 30? Maybe not. He scored that before.
Bullshit.
But the fact that Boobie
without LeBron.
Bullshit.
But the fact that Boobie
these are NBA
Eric, hold on. The fact that Boobie was able to score 30 points in a championship game means that he was not as bad as you all claim he was.
Okay. That's
because I don't care if they were double or tripling teaming LeBron. Scoring 30 points in a championship game against the Spurs ain't no small feat.
Let the guests get in. Let the guests get in. Let the guests get in, please.
I got a question. Since you pulled that up for LeBron in year 4, can you please pull up MJ stats in year 4 for me, please, when he went to the championship? Can you do that?
When they went to who?
Michael Jordan, 4th year.
4th year? Okay,
He's being facetious. He's being facetious, bro.
He is being facetious.
He's being facetious. But that's cute. That's cute. That's cute. Yeah.
But he didn't get to play that Pistons team.
Oh, you're right. He played the best defensive team in the NBA history. But I mean, there's that too, and he beat those guys.
Who are you talking about?
Yeah, no. See, that's what y'all. He's playing slick with the facts. Everybody know that Ben Wallace was not on that Detroit Pistons team in that 2007 Eastern Conference Finals. You see how they do that? They always leave that part out of the history. They always leave out that the three consecutive defensive player of the year was not on that team. They leave that one out.
Was he on the team, Alex?
It doesn't matter. Statistically,
was he on the team? It does matter. Was he on the team?
You know who else wasn't on the team? Carmelo Anthony. He wasn't on the team either. We can go through a list.
Yeah, that was a bad organizational. That was a bad organizational decision right there.
I don't disagree.
Yeah, Melo was definitely supposed to be on that team.
Never played for that team. So what are you talking about?
The fact still remains. That's all I'm saying.
The fact remains is that he had a lot of help from his teammates when he played poorly. Two games of that series.
And that's why I said before, and I think the problem was because what did Pop say in that series? He said one very brief say, let him shoot. That's what Pop said. He couldn't shoot.
22 points a game, 22 points a game, 6 turnovers a game, 35% shooting. Now, name me a series where Jordan played that bad.
You can in year 4 because he didn't do it.
What are you talking about?
In year 4, do it.
Okay.
What about year 7 and 8 and 9?
He was losing in the first round in year 4. What are we talking about?
No, he wasn't in the first round. He lost.
No, he lost in the semis.
And you should know that because that was the Cleveland year, the game you was at.
Yeah. Yep. That was the Elo shot. Yeah.
Second round. So in year 4, he lost in the conference finals or the
semis?
Semis. It was semis.
Still couldn't do it.
Okay. In year 1, what was your guy doing? In year 1, did he make the playoffs? Oh, so he couldn't do it.
As a high school player? You're right. As a high school player, he couldn't do it.
No, he wasn't a high school player. He was an NBA
player. Now he's a high school player.
He was an NBA player.
Now we got him back in high school.
He was an NBA player. He was an NBA player.
First-year player coming out of high school.
Okay, he missed the playoffs.
No.
2 years. 2 years in a row.
Okay.
Magic Johnson, as a 19-year-old, was hitting the hook shot to win the title.
Are we really going to do that?
You know what? In LeBron's defense, hold on. In LeBron's defense,
shot on that team. That team was loaded. Are we really going to do that?
Well, you're doing it.
That team was loaded. No,
I'm doing it. You're trying to compare the '86 Celtics to the 2007 Pistons. They didn't win.
Stats are stats. You call it what you want. Stats. I'm just going.
No, it's not stats. Okay, we're talking about what one player averaged, which one player didn't.
He didn't.
Just like you did with Allen Iverson in 2001. Allen Iverson averaged 32.9 points per game on 46% shooting. Jordan, for his career, averages 33 on 48. So why he couldn't get the same results with that team in that era against that competition? And he's a better player.
Yeah, I'm trying to see how in any way Michael Jordan would not have been able to be at least as effective as Allen Iverson.
Let me answer that because I've never seen Jordan effective as a scorer outside the triangle. That's why.
He averaged.
Hold on, bro. He led the league in scoring for 3 seasons before he even played the triangle. What are you talking about? He didn't start playing the triangle. He didn't start playing the triangle until what? His 6th season. He had already had 3 or 4 scoring championships by then. What are you talking about?
Let me caveat that it didn't turn into winning. Allen Iverson was scoring, and they were winning.
Against who though?
That one particular season they got to a finals. But here's the problem, because I could tell you a young guy, right? Because I'm older than you. Like I was grown. I'm older than Michael Jordan. So I was grown through shit you're talking about. I actually saw. And this is what, when you guys talk about Michael Jordan's troubles in the 80s or whatever, you never put it in the real context. Look, that 80s Eastern Conference, that was the greatest conference
Very top heavy.
ever. This was a conference that featured Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, Dr. J, Moses Malone, Mo Cheeks, Isaiah Thomas, Joe. That conference, that particular decade, you got like almost 3 or 4 guys during just that decade who are like top 20 all-time players. And then what was waiting for you on the West Coast? If you managed to get through that, what was waiting for you on the West Coast? Kareem, Magic, Worthy. That was a different kind of league. That was a different level of competition. I mean, I give LeBron all due respect, and I give the Spurs and whatever Golden State, but that was a smaller league. So you had the 6th or 7th or 8th guy on the team could be on the starter in today's NBA. So you're making an apples and oranges comparison when you're comparing Mike's career and LeBron's career, because it was just a very different kind of league. As great as Steph Curry is now, and he's a great player, Steph Curry doesn't make it 3 seasons in the NBA because of his ankles. Because back then they didn't have miracle shit with the ligaments and all of that. So then when you're comparing, or let's compare Steph Curry to Larry Bird, who I still think is the greatest shooter of all time.
Hands down.
And here's why.
Hands down.
Larry Bird did not play with a 3-point line. He didn't practice it in grade school. He didn't practice it in high school. There was no, when the 3-point line came into the NBA, the same season Larry Bird came into the NBA. He didn't have all the technology and the training and the thousands. Well, in the case of Steph, his dad was rich, so probably 100,000 or whatever investment in training and all of that. He just had his own natural talent shooting in the fruit basket in Terre Haute, Indiana. So some of these are not valid comparisons to just go by stats, but to take them out of context of the world that people were doing things in. It really gives a false impression, or it's a false way, in my view, to make a real fair comparison between. So you really have only left, statistics are good, but you really only have left how great that person was in his particular era, and then you compare his greatness in his particular era to that of the greatness of the other guy. Mike got 6 titles. LeBron got 4. Mike got 6 titles in 15 seasons. LeBron got 4 in 19 seasons. So I mean, and Mike changed his game. Mike was averaging like 8 assists a game before Phil Jackson got to Chicago. He was a point guard. He had like a run about 10 or 12 triple doubles. Phil Jackson comes in and say, okay, that's great, but to extend your career and to win, you need to come up off that ball. Now, Mike could have said, motherfucker, I won an MVP, I won a DPOY, I got scoring titles, all-star, winning slam dunk contest. He could have tapped out right there and told Phil to get lost. I'm going to keep on doing it my way. That's not what he did. He changed his game. He changed the way, which means that he had to become a better outside shooter. He had to develop a mid-range game so that he would be more effective in the triangle, but with less stress on him physically. And he had to also get stronger because the Pistons was kicking his ass. So these comparisons with LeBron and MJ, LeBron's a great story in his own right, and Mike's a great story in his own right for his era. And I would say Mike is the GOAT because I think he did more in a shorter period of time, and I think he was more. I think history proves he was more amendable to doing what was necessary to win. And I don't remember Mike being as obsessed with his stats as LeBron appeared to be. That's actually quite distasteful to me.
What do you mean obsessed with his stats?
Well, he sits out games when he knows it's going to hurt his stats. So I'm going to take it a whole different direction. And why I say, go ahead, Dr.
gentlemen,
Arwar.
I need to wrap up, so let's make this the last round of.
Okay, this is why I say Jordan is the GOAT. Highest PER. Basketball is offensive defense. So he's been the best offensive player and the best defensive player for multiple years of that. He's developed talent from zero to Hall of Fame. He took Pippen from someone who was averaging 7 points a game coming off the bench. He got credit for working with him, took him to a Hall of Fame level. Same with Brent. Killer instinct. 4 of 8 on game-winning shots in the finals. Highest playoff average. Led the league in steals a couple times. This is why he's by far, hands down, the GOAT. He won his era. People didn't eat out of 15 years. He won 6, so that's 40%. LeBron out of 20 years, 4%, and people four times. And people in his era, Tim Duncan and Steph Curry, has just as many rings as he does in his time, and they took a couple off him as well too.
That's a thing. That's a real thing.
And then also, Black Uru, in the 80s, those teams were very top heavy as well. So the top 4 was a large gap between the top 4 and the rest of the league.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the top teams in the 80s, like that's a who's who of basketball of those top teams in the 80s.
All right, Alex. Okay, I have to wrap up. Do you want to say anything to that?
Sure. Because LeBron. So when you talk about transcendence, because I think that's kind of what we're talking about in some respects. LeBron's responsible for a lot of things, definitely player movement. Some people like it, some people don't. And he's responsible for probably the best team that in my lifetime that we've ever seen, record-wise. I think that Golden State, I think coming back that following year before Golden State got KD, I think they knew that they couldn't beat him. I think Draymond's even been on record stating that. That's why they went and got him. In order to beat LeBron, and I understand what you're saying about the finals. I know the record. Like it ain't pretty, but it's not pretty because they stacked up everything they could to beat this dude. Playing pick and roll. So.
I mean, I never saw any scenario where, I mean, this is like the fundamental difference between, I can't see any scenario where Mike or Magic or Bird say, we can't beat those guys. We just,
but that's what
I can't see that scenario.
But that's what happened.
Because they're mentally weak. They're mentally weak.
But that's what happened.
Because they're mentally weak.
They went to a game 7 against them. And if you bring back Bogut, which again, prior to Bogut getting hurt, they pretty much had the Cavaliers in check. So if you bring back Bogut or some decent defender, hell, maybe you bring in the brother from what's his name that was on the Mavericks when they won the title in 2011. He was from Chicago originally.
Chandler.
What's his name?
Chandler.
Hell, you bring in Tyson Chandler. You probably shut that shit down. So I think they were just cowards. They're just cowards.
I agree. I agree, Black Uru, because that's like my Falcons. After they blew that lead against the Patriots, they ain't recovered since. And so Golden State, I think they're mentally weak. They should have lost in the previous round, but they mentally would have been defeated, kind of like Toronto. Whenever they played LeBron, they would have, in their mind, they couldn't do it. So KD gave them the confidence they needed, but they were mentally weak.
I can't disagree. I agree with that. I think that's not what we call, that's not a boss move. That's lame. That was lame.
It was one up and one that was done before going to Miami. I view them the same. I know you don't care, but I view them the same. You felt like you couldn't win with your team and you go to another team.
It's hypocritical because NBA teams put together super teams all the
I
time.
mean, and you weaken the overall competitiveness of the conference. You took the best player from Toronto, which had been a playoff team, and obviously the best player from Cleveland, and you all concentrate them on one particular team. So you neutralize the overall competitiveness of that conference when you did that. That shit was kind of sissified, man, what they did down there.
Teams do it, it's fine.
When have teams done that though?
But here's the difference. Here's the difference, brother. To me, this is the fundamental difference.
Boston wasn't in their prime.
The difference between when a team does it and when players do it is players actually play each other. Mike actually plays Magic. Jerry Buss doesn't play Jerry Krause. So they're just, this is an organization. We're trying to win. We're trying to get the best resources put together to win. That's fine. But they don't have the actual direct competition element that, LeBron has versus KD. So when LeBron couples with KD or Steph, you're basically saying you don't want to compete. Or I'm afraid to compete against you, man to man. That's a very different thing than what an organization does. Very different.
Or
I can't see a scenario where Mike calls up Magic and say, can I come out to LA? I can't. I mean, there's that. Maybe that happened somewhere in the multiverse, in the multiverse of madness, but that don't happen in this particular universe. That don't happen.
All right, guys. Tell me the last word. I have to wrap up.
I love it.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. It sounds like we have to do this again. Or maybe have another basketball discussion. So thank you, Eric. Thank you, Black Uru.
Yeah, and I want to plug,
Thanks,
I'm doing fashion and image on my channel, so y'all welcome to come over there. I'm just getting started rocking and rolling. So yeah,
what's the
sure.
channel, Eric?
I am Eric Hall.
Okay, I'll definitely check it out.
Okay. For sure.
Yeah, we'll be in touch, Eric.
All right, cool.
All right. Alex, do you have anything else?
No, listen, I enjoyed the conversation. It was great. Anytime you can get multiple people to come up, have a good conversation and around this topic, it's fun. It's interesting to see people's point of views. I think initially, you still have to have that conversation as to what are we categorizing as what the actual GOAT is. And I think one thing that we've learned is for everybody, it's different. Viewpoints are different, which is one of the most beautiful things about basketball is you can watch it and see, six people can watch it and see six different things on a court. So that's the best part about it. So listen, I thank you for setting this up. I enjoy the gentleman that came up. Definitely check out I Am Eric's channel. I'm going to go over there as soon as we hop off and see what he has going on over there as well.
Yeah, Alex, let's do some more basketball.
Yeah, let's do it. Yep, I'm up for it.
All right. Abdul, so look at this. Abdul doesn't like when I use his thing. So he says, what heritage does Michael have? I said, Michael is nestled comfortably under 6 banners that he won. And Abdul says, those banners, the phony GOAT is nestled under pales in comparison to the 17 I'm nestled under.
That one, man.
He always has to win somehow.
Listen, I am amazed by how consistent he is. He's consistent. I give him that.
He's consistent.
Yeah.
All right, Alex. I'll talk to you later, man.
I have a good one.
All right, everyone. I'm going to wrap this stream up. This was fun. We're going to do some more basketball here. But to my Michigan football fans, we're going to do a stream really soon, catching up on the latest Michigan football news. I'm still reeling after that TCU loss, and it's 2 months later. That was a tough loss. All right, but that was tonight's discussion on who the GOAT is. And as me and Alex talked about in the beginning, it's hard to get 5 people to agree on who the GOAT is. So, but I appreciate BGS and Black Uru and Eric coming up and giving their opinions on this. Everyone, I am a writer. I showed my book at the beginning. It is a sports-related book. It's about what sports and the great game of basketball teach you about life at an early age. It's a narrative story. It's a lot of fun. I'm up early editing chapters. This is in the description box below. And as I said at the beginning of the stream, the seminal moment for me was Michael Jordan hitting the shot against Cleveland. I was blown away and taken to another world when I saw that. I also have a newsletter. Most writers have their own newsletters. It is the Big Words LLC Newsletter. This link is in the description box below. There's a 2-paragraph greeting there, and then there's a subscription button there at the bottom. You just click that button, and it takes you to that form right there. Enter in your email address, and you are a part of my group. So please consider joining the group. If something happens with this form, sometimes things do. You can reach Sometimes things do. Okay, so I accidentally booted myself out of StreamYard. Fortunately, you have to end the broadcast. So even if you boot yourself out, the broadcast still keeps going. So I was saying that if something happens with this form, and things often do when you're dealing with this technology, you can also send me an email at this email address here, bwllcnl@gmail.com, and you can ask to be added and I will add you. So that's my newsletter. Please consider joining. All right, so I'm gonna end this stream, but in honor of Abdul, since he thinks Mike is so interesting, I'm gonna play one Michael drop for Abdul. How about Buzz Peterson?
And then there's Buzz Peterson, my roommate. Now, when I first met Buzz, all I heard about was this kid from Asheville, North Carolina, who's a player of the year. I'm thinking, well, he ain't never played against me yet.
All right. For Abdul, we'll also do Leroy Smith, and then I promise I'll wrap this up.
And then there's Leroy Smith. Now, you gotta think that's a myth. Leroy Smith was a guy, when I got cut, he made the team on the varsity team, and he's here tonight.
And Michael, what did you want to tell your coach?
He's still the same 6'7" guy. He's not any bigger. Probably his game is about the same.
Well, that wasn't the one, but Leroy's game is about the same. Michael, how did you feel about that magazine cover that Coach Smith didn't let you be a part of?
And Coach Smith, the day that he was on the Sports Illustrated and he named 4 starters and he didn't name me, that burned me up.
All right, I could play these drops all night. All right, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your night. Thank you to those of you who watched. If you're watching on the playback, please like, share, and subscribe. If you want to make a donation to the channel, that information is below in the description box. And you can also leave a super thanks. And please consider joining my newsletter. All right, everyone. As always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. And always try to do your best. Take care, and I will talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.